I never thought I'd be the girl who'd trade my soul for a passing grade. My name's Mia, and this is my confession. Raw and unfiltered, a story of desire so sharp it carved through my heart and left me in shadows. If you're watching, you're already hooked, caught in a sin that feels like a secret until it's a chain around your soul. This isn't about love or redemption, it's about survival, the kind that blinds you and dares you to fall. Stay with me because this one's going to unravel you. It's a tale of ambition, lust, and betrayals I orchestrated to stay afloat. It was a humid September night in New Orleans, Louisiana, the air thick with jasmine and pressure. I was 20, a sophomore at a small liberal arts college, drowning in coursework and the fear of failing. My scholarship hung by a thread, and I couldn't afford to flunk out. That's when I crossed paths with 3 professors, Dr. Carter, Dr. Hayes, and Dr. Bowen Ellis, each a key to a course I was failing, each a temptation I couldn't resist. Dr. Carter was 42, a literature professor, all sharp wit and sharper eyes, his tweed jacket hiding a frame that made my pulse race. I stayed late after his class, my skirt short, my blouse tight, my grade slipping. "You're struggling, Mia," he said, his voice low, his brown eyes catching mine in the empty lecture hall. My breath hitched his cologne, leather, and ink hitting me like a spark. I leaned closer, my smile calculated, my desperation real. "I need to pass," I whispered, my hand grazing his desk, my eyes daring him to bite. The lecture hall was dim, the campus quiet, the chalk dust heavy in the air. Carter stepped closer, his fingers brushing mine as he handed back my failing paper, a touch that set my nerves alight. I told myself it was just a transaction, a way to survive, but his gaze held me, a spark I couldn't ignore. "You're not like the others," he said, his tone a challenge, his eyes flicking to my lips. I nodded, my throat tight, my mind screaming to stop. "You want to earn it?" he asked, leaning closer, his jacket brushing my arm, outlining a strength I tried not to see. The question was a flame igniting a fire I'd buried under fear of failure. I didn't answer, but my silence was a confession. His smile was slow, dangerous, like he'd already claimed me. The hall was a vault, the world outside forgotten, the chalkboard looming. Carter's hand grazed my wrist, his fingers warm against my skin, a spark that burned through my resolve. My heart pounded, a traitor, as his eyes held mine, daring me to fall. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his lips close, his breath hot with ink and want. I didn't. My hands found his chest, the tweed rough under my fingers, his pulse strong. The campus slept the night alive, and I was already lost. His kiss was a collision, fierce and hungry, tasting of coffee and sin. My hand slid up his neck, pulling him closer, the desk cold behind me. The night pulsed, the air thick as his lips trailed to my jaw, his teeth grazing each bite, a pulse of pleasure and power. I was drowning, and Carter was the tide pulling me into a sea of want. My scholarship, my future faded, leaving only him, his heat, my hunger. His kiss was a wildfire burning through my calculated plan. Carter's hands were bold, tugging at my blouse, his fingers grazing my skin through the fabric. The lecture hall was a haze, the moonlight filtering through the blinds, casting shadows that danced like secrets. My hands roamed his chest, the tweed slipping, revealing skin that burned under my touch. The chalk dust stung my lungs, the air thick with desire. His lips were everywhere, my neck, my collarbone, each kiss a claim, each touch a line crossed. I pulled him toward the office, the door half closed, shielding us from the campus. My blouse was gone, discarded in the haze, revealing lace that made his breath catch. My hands slid lower, tracing his belt, his gasps sharp in the quiet room. The guilt was there, faint and distant, but my plan was stronger, fueling every touch, every move. His hands were on my thighs, now sliding under my lace, his fingers leaving trails of fire. The office was our world, the campus a distant hum. I pressed him against the desk, straddling him the lace, a tease I wielded like a weapon. His lips found mine again, hungry, demanding, tasting of coffee and want. My hands slid under his shirt, his skin warm and taut, his breath hitching as my fingers explored. The moonlight flickered, painting us in silver and shadow, turning our sin into something almost beautiful. But it wasn't. It was raw, desperate, a collision of need and betrayal. Doctor. Hayes was next, my history professor, 38, all quiet intensity and dark curls. I met him in the library, my grades slipping, my desperation growing. His office was small, the air heavy with old books and tension. His kiss was slower, deeper. His hands bowled my lace, falling away. The pleasure was fierce, a storm I'd planned but couldn't control, edged with the guilt of using him. Dr. Ellis. 45 philosophy was the final key, his gray eyes piercing his office, a maze of papers and shadows. I stayed late, my questions bold, my skirt shorter. His kiss was fierce, his hands greedy, the desk creaking under our weight. The pleasure was raw, relentless, a betrayal that felt like victory. When it happened, it was a collision, a wave crashing over me. Their groans, Carter, Hayes, Ellis, were sharp, muffled by the walls, my hands holding them close, our bodies moving as one. The pleasure was overwhelming, a sin I'd orchestrated. The desks creaked, the night heavy with our heat, my plan unfolding. The campus watched indifferent as I crossed lines I'd meant to control. Afterward, I was tangled, breathless, their scents, ink books, and sin clinging to me. Their eyes were dark, torn, their hands lingering. The guilt hit me, a deluge, but my grades were safe, my scholarship secure. This was a mistake, Carter said, his voice rough. I smiled, slow and wicked, my lips brushing his ear. It worked, I said, and I meant it. The New Orleans night lingered, and so did the weight of my betrayals. I left their offices, my clothes back on, their scents clinging to me. My grades improved, my scholarship safe, but their faces, Carter, Hayes, Ellis, haunted me, their touches in every shadow, every dream. The guilt was a beast clawing at me, but my survival burned brighter, a fire I couldn't douse. I saw them again in class, their eyes catching mine, a secret shared in glances. Carter's lectures were charged. Hayes's questions pointed, Ellis's gaze heavy. I kept my distance, my smile professional, but when Carter texted midnight, my office I went, the night thick with Jasmine, his silhouette waiting. His office was darker, the air heavy with ink and desire. His jacket discarded, his skin glowing in the lamplight. His kiss was fiercer, desperate, his hands tearing at my blouse. My hands roamed his body, greedy, the pleasure raw, edged with pain. The guilt was sharper, a blade I couldn't outrun. Hayes and Ellis followed, their offices sanctuaries of sin, their touches brands I'd never erase. My roommate Lily grew suspicious. "You're different, Mia," she said, her eyes searching mine. I froze, her friendship a contrast to my schemes. "Just studying," I lied, my voice tight, my mind flashing to their offices, their hands on my skin. Her frown deepened, and I feared she saw the truth. "Be careful," she said, and the words were a weight grounding me. They pushed further. "Stay with me," Carter said, his voice rough, Hayes and Ellis echoing in their own ways. "Stay, burn my life for them." The idea was madness, but I saw it a life with power, not just grades. Then Lily's face flashed her trust, and I pulled away trembling. I told them it was over. They stood in their offices, eyes blazing, shirts open. "You'll always come back." Carter said, his voice a challenge. They left a pen behind engraved with their initials tucked into my bag. I should have thrown it away, but I kept it a secret that scorched. The New Orleans heat lingered, and so did my hunger, a fire I couldn't quench. Lily confronted me. "What's this?" she asked, holding the pen, her voice hard. I froze my sin, unraveling her friendship a mirror of my guilt. I confessed not all but enough, admitting I'd crossed lines. She left her silence deafening, promising to report me. I was alone, the pen in my hand, their sense a ghost I'd never escape. This is my story, a warning to anyone who thinks they can play with fire and not get burned. If you've watched this far, you know that hunger, that ache for what you shouldn't take. So hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, call me a schemer, a sinner, or just a girl who survived. Like the video or don't, but share it with someone who's felt temptation's pull. Check out my other stories. They're just as raw, just as real. Ever chased a forbidden deal? Spill your secrets below. I'm listening, and I've been there.